I should have seen the signs. Jules always had a knack for stealing the spotlight, even at family gatherings meant to celebrate others. But this time, she had taken it too far. "And that's why Ethan and I have decided to get married," I announced, beaming with excitement as I revealed the stunning diamond ring that now adorned my finger. A murmur of congratulations filled the room, and I savored the moment surrounded by my loved ones. That's when Jules cleared her throat, a sly grin spreading across her face. "Well, if we're sharing news, Derek and I are also engaged." She thrust her hand forward, revealing a gaudy rock that would make a rapper blush. My heart sank as the room erupted into a chorus of oohs and ahs, eclipsing my own moment. "Isn't it just gorgeous?" Jules gushed, batting her lashes at our parents. "Derek spared no expense. He knows how to treat a woman right." My mother's eyes widened, and I could see the envy brewing behind her smile. "That's quite the ring, sweetheart." Dad chimed in, his voice laced with pride. "And you've only been dating for 6 months? Derek must be one hell of a catch." I clenched my fists, fighting back the urge to scream. This was supposed to be my day, my moment to shine. But as always, Jules had found a way to make it about her. "So, when's the big day?" Mom asked, her attention now firmly fixed on Jules. "We're still ironing out the details," Jules replied nonchalantly. "But we're thinking sometime next spring, maybe April or May." My stomach dropped. That was the exact window I had been planning for my dream wedding. Jules knew that, and yet she was brazenly encroaching on my territory. "That's wonderful," Dad exclaimed, clapping his hands together. "We'll have to start saving up for 2 weddings." I couldn't take it anymore. "Excuse me," I muttered, pushing back my chair and storming out of the room. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall, fighting back tears of frustration. This was supposed to be my moment, my chance to finally have something that was just mine. But once again, Jules had found a way to overshadow me, to make it all about her. The sound of footsteps startled me, and I turned to see Ethan, his face etched with concern. "Marla, are you okay?" I shook my head, the tears spilling down my cheeks. "She did it again, Ethan. She stole my moment, just like she always does." He pulled me into a comforting embrace, his hand gently stroking my hair. "I know, babe. I saw the whole thing. What am I going to do?" I whispered, my voice trembling. This was supposed to be our time, our special moment. Ethan's grip tightened, and I could sense the determination in his voice. "We'll figure something out, Marla. I promise you, this won't be like all the other times. We won't let her take this from us." As I clung to him, I knew one thing for certain. Jules had started a war, and I had no intention of backing down. This time, I would fight for what was rightfully mine, no matter the cost. In the days following Jules' engagement stunt, I tried my best to focus on planning my dream wedding. Ethan and I had already secured our ideal venue, a charming vineyard nestled in the rolling hills of Napa Valley. We'd had our hearts set on it for years, and the idea of celebrating our love amidst the lush vines and sprawling landscapes filled me with joy. That joy was short-lived. "Are you kidding me?" I exclaimed, nearly dropping my phone as I stared at the image Jules had posted on Instagram. It was a photo of her and Derek, arms wrapped around each other, grinning like fools in front of the unmistakable backdrop of our dream venue. The caption read, "Dreams do come true. Vineyard wedding. Here we come." My blood boiled as I read the comments, a flood of congratulatory messages from our family and friends. How could she do this? How could she stoop so low as to steal the location I had been envisioning for years? "Ethan," I called out, my voice shaking with rage, "you need to see this!" He emerged from the bedroom, his brow furrowed with concern at the sound of my distress. "What's wrong?" I thrust my phone in his face, the damning image still on display. "Look at what your sister did." Ethan's eyes widened as he took in the scene. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm deadly serious," I spat. "She's booked our dream venue for her wedding, and based on the date, it's just 1 week before ours." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, shaking his head in disbelief. I don't even have words." "Well, I do," I growled. "That manipulative, vindictive little snake, she knew how much that place meant to us, and she did this purely out of spite." Ethan pulled me into a tight embrace, his arms enveloping me as I trembled with rage. "I'm so sorry, Marla. I had no idea she was capable of something so low. Believe me, this is just the tip of the iceberg," I muttered, burying my face in his chest, She's always been like this, always trying to one-up me, no matter the cost. We stood there for a moment, the weight of Jules' betrayal hanging heavy in the air. Finally, Ethan spoke up, his voice filled with determination. We're not going to let her get away with this. I pulled back, my eyes locking with his. What do you mean? I mean, we're going to fight back, he said, his jaw set. We're going to show her that she can't just walk all over us like this. We're going to have our dream wedding, and we're going to make sure it's even better than hers. A sly smile crept across my face as the seeds of a plan began to take root. You know what? You're right. It's time we stopped letting her control the narrative. Ethan nodded, a glint of mischief in his eyes. Whatever you have in mind, I'm in. No more playing nice with your sister. It's time to fight fire with fire. As we stood there, plotting our counterstrike, I felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. Jules may have struck the first blow, but this was far from over. She had awoken a vengeful fury within me, and I was prepared to do whatever it took to reclaim what was rightfully mine, even if it meant playing just as dirty as she did. My parents' reaction to Jules's wedding venue theft was the final nail in the coffin. Instead of seeing her underhanded move for what it was, they praised her resourcefulness and tenacity. You have to admire her hustle, Dad said with a chuckle as we gathered for our weekly family dinner. Snatching up that prime venue before anyone else could? That's my girl, always one step ahead. I clenched my fists under the table, biting my tongue to keep from screaming. How could he be so blasé about this? Didn't he understand how much pain and heartache Jules had caused me? And just think of how much money she saved by booking early. Mom chimed in, her eyes practically sparkling with pride. We'll be able to put more towards making her day absolutely perfect. That was the last straw. Are you kidding me? I burst out, unable to contain my fury any longer. She literally stole my dream venue from right under my nose, and you're praising her for it. Mom and Dad exchanged a bewildered look as if they couldn't fathom why I was so upset. Oh, Marla, don't be so dramatic, Mom chided. It's not like you had dibs on that place. Besides, you and Ethan have plenty of time to find another lovely venue. That's not the point, I shouted, slamming my palm on the table. She did this intentionally, as a slap in the face to me. Can't you see how vindictive and cruel that is? Dad sighed, shaking his head warily. Sweetheart, you're reading too much into this. Your sister simply saw an opportunity and seized it. There's no need to turn this into a personal attack. My gaze shifted to Jules, who was sitting across from me with a smug grin plastered on her face. She met my eyes, giving me a slow, deliberate wink that sent shivers down my spine. In that moment, I knew the truth. She had done this to hurt me, to assert her dominance and ensure that her wedding day would overshadow mine in every way possible. And our parents were too blinded by her charming facade to see it. You know what? Forget it, I spat, pushing back from the table. Clearly, I'm the only one who sees Jules for the manipulative, selfish person she really is. Marla, don't be like that, Mom pleaded, but I was already storming towards the front door, hot tears of rage and anguish stinging my eyes. Ethan rushed after me, his hand on my arm bringing me to a halt. Babe, wait. Where are you going? I turned to face him, my vision blurred by the tears I could no longer hold back. Away from here, away from them. I can't be around my family right now, not after they've made it clear whose side they're on. Ethan pulled me into a tight embrace, his arms providing the only solace I could find in that moment. As I clung to him, sobbing into his chest, I realized that my family had fractured beyond repair. And no matter how hard I tried, I might never be able to put the pieces back together again. In the weeks following the fateful family dinner, I did my best to distance myself from my parents and Jules. Every time I thought about their betrayal, their blatant favoritism towards my spiteful sister, a fresh wave of anger and hurt washed over me. Ethan was my rock throughout it all, supporting me and validating my decision to cut ties, at least temporarily. You don't need that kind of toxicity in your life right now, he'd say, wrapping his arms around me whenever the tears threatened to spill over. Focus on us, on our future together. Still, it was nearly impossible to escape the constant reminders of Jules' wedding preparations. Social media was flooded with updates on her dress fittings, venue decorations, and over-the-top bachelorette party. Each new post felt like a dagger to my heart, rubbing salt in the wound of my shattered dreams. One night, as Ethan and I were curled up on the couch watching TV, my phone pinged with a notification. Instinctively, I swiped it open, only to be greeted by a photo of Jules posing in front of a wall of elaborate floral arrangements. "Just a sneak peek at what's in store for my big day," the caption read, followed by a winking emoji and a string of hashtags like Bridezilla vibes and no expense spared. A bitter laugh escaped my lips as I stared at the image, shaking my head in disbelief. "What's so funny?" Ethan asked, his brow furrowed with concern. "Just my sister, rubbing her extravagant wedding plans in my face once again," I muttered, tossing my phone aside in disgust. "I swear she's doing this on purpose, trying to make me feel as insignificant and worthless as possible." Ethan's expression hardened, and he pulled me closer, his fingers gently tracing patterns on my arm. "You know, we don't have to let her get to us like this." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the determined glint in his eyes. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we could take back control," he said, his voice low and conspiratorial. "We could have our wedding first, beat her to the punch, and show her that she doesn't get to dictate our happiness anymore." The idea took root in my mind, a sly smile spreading across my face. "You're right. Why should we wait around and let her have her perfect day while we're left with the scraps? We deserve to have our moment in the sun without her casting a shadow over everything." Ethan nodded, his expression resolute. "Exactly. So what do you say? Should we start making some new plans?" Without hesitation, I leaned in and kissed him, pouring all of my love and determination into that single embrace. "You know what? Let's do it. Let's take back our wedding and show Jules that she can't control us anymore." As we huddled together, whispering excitedly about our new scheme, I felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins. This was our chance to finally stand up to Jules, to reclaim the happiness and joy that she had tried so hard to steal from us. And this time, I wasn't going to let anything or anyone stop me. With Ethan's full support, I dove headfirst into planning our secret wedding ceremony. We decided to keep things small and intimate, inviting only our closest friends and the few family members who had remained steadfastly on my side throughout this ordeal. "Are you sure about this?" Ethan asked one evening as we pored over vendor quotes and venue options. "Going behind your sister's back like this, it's a pretty bold move." I met his gaze, my eyes steely with determination. She brought this on herself. If she hadn't been so hell-bent on trying to upstage and humiliate me at every turn, we wouldn't have to resort to such extreme measures. Ethan nodded slowly, seeming to weigh my words. "You're right. She's left us no choice." With that reassurance, we pressed on, making arrangements with a quaint little chapel just outside of town. It wasn't the lavish vineyard setting I'd once dreamed of, but in that moment it felt perfect. A quiet, intimate space where Ethan and I could exchange our vows without the specter of Jules' extravagance looming over us. Of course, we had to be incredibly discreet, lest word of our plans get back to my conniving sister. Whenever we met with vendors or scouted locations, we used fake names and played it off as though we were planning a surprise vow renewal for our friends Marla and Ethan. The secrecy only added to the thrill of it all, this delicious act of defiance against the woman who had made it her life's mission to diminish me at every turn. As the date drew nearer, I couldn't help but revel in the anticipation of Jules' reaction when she inevitably discovered what we had done. I imagined the look of shock and outrage on her face, the realization that, for once, she hadn't been able to wrest control of the narrative from me. "You know, part of me almost feels bad for going behind her back like this," Ethan mused one night as we lay tangled in bed, basking in the afterglow of our passionate lovemaking. I propped myself up on one elbow, arching an eyebrow at him. "You can't be serious." He shrugged, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "I'm just saying, she's going to be absolutely blindsided when she finds out. Are you prepared for the fallout?" A wicked grin spread across my face as I leaned in, my lips brushing against his ear. That's exactly what I'm counting on. In that moment, revenge had never tasted sweeter. The day of our secret wedding dawned bright and clear, as if the universe itself was smiling upon our clandestine plans. As I slipped into my simple yet elegant gown, a giddy thrill coursed through me. Today was the day Ethan and I would finally take our vows, cementing our love and commitment in a way that Jules could never taint or overshadow. The ceremony itself was a blur of joy and pure, unbridled happiness. Surrounded by the handful of loved ones who had chosen to stand by us, Ethan and I exchanged heartfelt vows and rings, sealing our union with a passionate kiss that had our guests erupting in cheers and applause. Afterwards, as we basked in the warm glow of congratulations and well wishes, I couldn't resist the urge to share our news with the world. Pulling out my phone, I snapped a photo of Ethan and myself, beaming and clutching our marriage certificate like a hard-won trophy. "Just got hitched to the love of my life," I typed, hitting send before I could second-guess myself. Surprise! The reactions were instantaneous, a deluge of shocked comments and congratulatory messages flooding in from friends and family alike. I couldn't help but grin as I scrolled through them, relishing in the knowledge that our secret was finally out in the open. And then I saw it, the comment that made my heart skip a beat. "Are you freaking kidding me right now?" Jules had written, her outrage practically dripping from the screen. "How could you do this to me?" A rush of vindictive glee washed over me as I read her words, picturing the look of utter disbelief and fury that must have been etched across her face in that moment. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for, the ultimate payback for all the pain and humiliation she had put me through. "Payback's a bitch, isn't it?" I muttered under my breath, a triumphant grin spreading across my face. Ethan, ever the voice of reason, gently pried the phone from my hands. "Come on, babe. Let's not stoop to her level. Today is about us, our love, and the life we're building together. Don't let her ruin that." I sighed, knowing he was right. As much as I longed to revel in Jules' misery, to savor every ounce of her anguish, I knew that doing so would only pull me down to her level of pettiness and cruelty. So instead, I turned my attention back to my new husband, pulling him close and losing myself in his warm embrace. As we swayed together, surrounded by the love and support of our nearest and dearest, I realized that this moment of pure, untainted bliss was all that mattered. Jules could rage and fume all she wanted, but at the end of the day, she had lost. I had reclaimed my happiness, my sense of self-worth, and there was nothing she could do to take that away from me ever again. As the celebration wore on late into the night, I couldn't help but feel a sense of overwhelming gratitude for the man who had stood by me through it all. Ethan had been my rock, my unwavering support system, and without him, I might have crumbled under the weight of Jules' relentless onslaught. But together, we had emerged victorious, a little bruised perhaps, but stronger and more resilient than ever before. And as I drifted off to sleep that night, nestled in the arms of my husband, I knew that no matter what challenges life might throw our way, we could weather any storm, so long as we faced it together. Jules's wedding day arrived, and I couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction at the thought of her grand plans being overshadowed by the news of my own nuptials. As Ethan and I got ready to attend the ceremony, a formality really, given the strained state of my relationship with my family, I couldn't resist checking social media one last time. Sure enough, the comments and reactions were still pouring in, with many of our friends and relatives expressing a mix of shock and excitement over our surprise union. A few even went so far as to suggest that Jules had been upstaged, that her extravagant wedding had been robbed of its thunder by our low-key, intimate affair. "Are you ready for this?" Ethan asked, slipping his arms around my waist from behind and planting a kiss on my cheek. I leaned back into his embrace, a sly grin spreading across my face. "More than ready. Let's go watch my sister's big day crumble before her eyes." The tension was palpable the moment we arrived at the vineyard venue, the air thick with whispers and sidelong glances in our direction. Jules, resplendent in an over-the-top ball gown that could have doubled as a small circus tent, shot me a venomous glare as we took our seats. Throughout the ceremony, I couldn't help but notice the conspicuous absence of several key family members, aunts, uncles, and cousins who had chosen to side with me in the wake of Jules' duplicitous actions. Their empty seats stood out like sore thumbs, a glaring reminder that not everyone had been blinded by my sister's grandiose displays of love. As Jules and Derek exchanged their vows, their words drowned out by the thunderous applause and cheers of the assembled guests, I found myself feeling nothing. No jealousy, no resentment, not even a flicker of the burning rage that had once consumed me whenever I thought of my sister's underhanded schemes. In that moment, I realized that I had won. Not just the petty battle of upstaging and one-upmanship, but the war for my own happiness and self-worth. Jules could have her lavish ceremony, her over-the-top spectacle, because at the end of the day, none of it could compare to the genuine love and commitment that Ethan and I had pledged to one another. As the reception kicked into full gear, with Jules and Derek basking in the spotlight and reveling in the attention, I couldn't help but notice the cracks beginning to show. Whispers and not-so-subtle glances in our direction, a palpable undercurrent of judgment and disapproval that no amount of extravagance could mask. "You know, I almost feel sorry for her," Ethan murmured, leaning in close as we watched Jules and Derek share their first dance as husband and wife. I arched an eyebrow, skeptical. "You're kidding, right? After everything she put us through?" He shrugged, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Just think about it. She went to all this trouble, spent all this money, and yet it still feels like our wedding was the one that really mattered." As I followed his gaze, taking in the strained expressions on the faces of our family members, the forced smiles and polite applause, I realized he was right. For all of Jules's pomp and circumstance, her grand spectacle had fallen flat, overshadowed by the genuine warmth and love that had surrounded our intimate ceremony. A triumphant grin spread across my face as I leaned in, capturing Ethan's lips in a searing kiss. "You know what? You're absolutely right. She may have won the battle, but we won the war." And as we swayed together on the dance floor, lost in our own little world of marital bliss, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of peace wash over me. The drama, the pettiness, the endless cycle of one-upmanship, it had all been leading to this moment, this sweet, hard-won victory. Jules could keep her lavish wedding, her over-the-top trappings of wealth and excess. Because at the end of the day, none of it could compare to the simple, unshakable bond that Ethan and I now shared. A bond forged in the fires of adversity, tempered by our unwavering love and commitment to one another. And as I gazed into my husband's eyes, I knew that no matter what challenges life might throw our way, we would face them head-on, side by side, a united front against the world. For in that moment, I had everything I could ever want or need. In the weeks and months that followed our respective weddings, the cracks in Jules's facade began to show. Her marriage to Derek, which had been built on a foundation of grandiose gestures and excessive spending, started to crumble under the weight of real-world pressures and financial strain. "Did you see the latest?" Ethan asked one evening, his brow furrowed as he scrolled through his phone. "Looks like Jules and Derek are already having problems." I peered over his shoulder, taking in the vague yet concerning social media post he was referencing. "What's going on now?" "According to this, they're taking a break to reassess their relationship or something like that." Ethan explained, his tone a mix of confusion and concern. "It sounds like money troubles might be part of the issue." A bitter laugh escaped my lips as I shook my head in disbelief. "You've got to be kidding me. After all that extravagance, all those over-the-top displays of wealth and excess, they're already hitting financial speed bumps?" Ethan sighed, setting his phone aside. "I know we probably shouldn't take pleasure in their misfortunes, but I can't help but feel like this is karma biting her in the ass for how she treated you." I nodded slowly, mulling over his words. As much as I wanted to feel smug, to revel in the schadenfreude of watching my sister's perfect life unravel, a part of me couldn't help but feel a twinge of empathy. After all, I knew what it was like to have your dreams brutally shattered, to watch as everything you thought you wanted slipped through your fingers. Still, the memory of Jules's cruel, underhanded tactics, the way she had so callously trampled all over my hopes and desires in her own pursuit of ostentatious perfection, made it hard to muster up too much sympathy. "You know what the worst part is?" I mused aloud, leaning back against the couch cushions. "If she had just been happy for me, if she had supported me instead of trying to one-up me at every turn, none of this would have happened." Ethan nodded in agreement, reaching out to give my hand a gentle squeeze. I know, babe. But that's just who she is. Always chasing after the next big thing, never satisfied with what she has. As the weeks dragged on, the gulf between Jules and the rest of our family grew wider, fueled by whispers and speculation about the true nature of her marital woes. When the news finally broke that she and Derek were separating, a mere 6 months after their over-the-top nuptials, it felt like a brutal slap in the face, a stark reminder of how easily even the grandest of facades could crumble. It was around that time that Jules reached out to me, her voice trembling with a mix of shame and desperation as she left a rambling voicemail on my phone. "Marla, it's me, your sister," she began, her words punctuated by sniffles and shaky breaths. "Look, I know things have been strained between us, to say the least, but I really need to talk to you. I'm going through some stuff, and I don't know who else to turn to." I stared at my phone, my thumb hovering over the delete button as I wrestled with the conflicting emotions swirling within me. A part of me wanted nothing more than to erase her message, to sever whatever remaining ties bound us together and rid myself of her toxicity once and for all. But another part, the part that still clung to the faintest glimmer of hope for reconciliation, for a chance to heal the wounds that had festered between us for far too long, couldn't bring itself to turn her away. With a heavy sigh, I pocketed my phone and sought out Ethan, knowing that his level-headed advice would help guide me through this latest turmoil. As I laid out the situation for him, his expression was one of thoughtful contemplation. Finally, after a long moment of silence, he spoke. "I think you should hear her out," he said, his voice gentle yet resolute. "Not for her sake, but for your own peace of mind. Maybe this is the wake-up call she needed to finally see the error of her ways." I nodded slowly, his words resonating deep within me. As much as I longed to shut Jules out, to protect myself from further hurt and betrayal, I knew that harboring that resentment would only continue to eat away at me, poisoning my own happiness and sense of self-worth. And so, with a deep breath and a silent prayer for strength, I dialed her number, steeling myself for whatever confession or plea for help awaited me on the other end of the line. Because deep down, I knew that if there was even a sliver of a chance to mend the tattered remnants of our relationship, I had to take it, not just for her sake, but for my own.